For those of you who don't know me, my name's Nadine White. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the University, and I would like to start this session by acknowledging and celebrating the first Australians on whose traditional lands we meet today, and pay my respect to elders past and present. I'm joined by Kyla Wilson, also from the Human Resource Division, and I'd like to start this session just with some general housekeeping items beforehand. So all attendees today have their video and microphones switched off, except for Kyla and myself. So you'll be able to see our faces. And this helps to keep the sound quality and also reduce any interference on the call. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand in the function at the bottom of your screen. And that way, the moderators of the session will assist you in unmuting your microphone, and please wait until that's done so that we can hear your full question. If you're having any technical issues today, please email vc.events@anu.edu.au and Lou and Joe will provide you with some assistance. If you have a question that you're not prepared to ask in this session, or you would like to ask a member of my team confidentially, please email ea.comments@anu.edu.au. Shortly, I'll ask attendees to ask their questions. But before we do this, I need to remind everyone that the forum is being recorded. So if you do not wish to be recorded, please email your question to ea.comments@anu.edu.au and it will be asked anonymously on your behalf. Before we kick off, I just want to share some context before we start the questions. Lou, is it possible for us to share the slide deck so that people can see that at the same time as we talk through? Fabulous. Okay, so we're just going to go to the second slide, which is some background information, which just lets you know that all of the entitlements and all of our workforce are covered by the ANU Enterprise Agreement, which has a period of time that runs from 2017 to 2021. Now, this agreement outlines all of your terms and conditions at employment at ANU, and this information session is to give you some details about the proposal to defer the 2% pay increase, which was scheduled for July 2020 and also July 2021, and answer any questions that you may have. The next slide covers the proposed variation of what we're suggesting happens, which is to defer the pay increases. So we've paid 3 pay increases under the current agreement so far, one in October 17, one in July 18, one in July 2019, and there's 2 remaining pay increases under the agreement, one scheduled for July 2020 this year and July 2021 next year. What we're proposing is to defer or slide back by 12 months each of the next 2 pay increases. So that's shown on that slide there. So we'd be shifting the July 2020 pay increase to July 2021 and the July 21 pay increase through to July 2022. The impact of doing this is covered on the next slide, which means that this year, if we do this, we would save approximately $6.75 million for this calendar year, and in 2021 we would save approximately $13.5 million. So quite considerable savings just by transitioning the date of those pay increases. Can we move on to the next slide, there, Lou? Thank you. So for this variation to be made to the agreement, what we need to do is hold a vote on the proposed clauses changing in the agreement. So we would need a majority of staff to support this change, and the vote will run from Wednesday the 17th of June until Tuesday the 23rd of June. The vote is confidential and it's conducted electronically using an online polling system. What we're doing for the next week is to leave the clauses in their draft form on the website for you to review and understand. Take some time to consider whether you want to vote for these or not. And we've also got some material in terms of FAQs available on the website should you have questions about those. We'll also be scheduling a couple of information sessions across the remainder of this week and also next week. So a couple of things to note. Your current salary is not going to change. You will continue to be paid your current salary. All of the incremental pay increases within classification levels will continue to be maintained. They will not be affected. There are no other proposed variations to the agreement. And if we don't receive a majority vote on the proposed clauses, then the pay rise will proceed as planned. So there's more information available on the website that's listed there, and you can also submit some confidential questions through to the email address. And these are the dates for the 2 further information sessions if you'd like to attend one of the other sessions or refer some of your colleagues to attend those information sessions. So I'm going to open up now for questions. Okay, we've got a couple of hands raised. Lou is going to unmute you so that you can ask a question.
James, you should be able to speak now.
I'd first like to say thank you for taking the time to answer questions today. My question is with regard to trying to understand the long-term impact. So I understand that 2021 pay rise is being deferred to 2022. Should there be an expectation of a regularly scheduled pay rise in 2022 in addition, or would this replace?
So James, it's a really good question. So thank you for asking that. Our current agreement has pay increases scheduled as per those 5 increases that were scheduled between 17 and 2021. And they're the increases that are under the lifetime of this agreement. So we are scheduled halfway through next year to start bargaining again for our next agreement. Agreements usually run for a 3 or 4 year period, and there have been annual increases under each of our agreements that we've had over the last decade or so. So yes, there will be increases that will be negotiated. We don't know what they are yet because we haven't started that bargaining period for the 2021 onwards agreement. But I can certainly suggest to you that both the NTU and the ANU are committed to bargaining next year and also looking at how we schedule those increases. So I can't answer the question in terms of what those amounts will be at this point, but yes, there will be commitments for increases beyond the 2022 arrangements at this point.
Daryl Webb.
Hi, Daryl.
Unmute your microphone, Daryl.
Yes, sorry, I just had to get some quiet in the background here. Oh, look, my question is related to, is there any linkage of this deferral to job security? Because for a lot of us, that's one of the key concerns at the moment.
So Daryl, that's also a really good question. You will have seen the Vice-Chancellor's very lengthy, open and transparent emails that he's been distributing to the university community, and also the information session that he ran the town hall meeting with 1,100 people. He's very open about what the university's financial position is and the savings that we need to achieve this year and also next year. So the savings this year are proposed to be $100 million, which is quite a significant contribution. And so the more things that we can do like this, and I'll give some other examples of things that we can do, the more jobs that we can actually save, because we don't need to move into staff reductions, which is really important. So if this can save $6.75 million this year and $13.5 million next year, that's a fantastic contribution. We've done some projections around travel as well. So since the beginning of April, none of us have been able to travel for pleasure or for business. So if international travel, for instance, we don't do for the remainder of the year because there are travel bans in place, that could potentially save the university around another $10 million because we've not been able to undertake that activity. We've learnt new ways of working in terms of Zoom. I mean, I think it's incredible that we had 1,100 people in the VC's town hall meeting just 2 weeks ago. So if we can continue to do those things and make savings in those areas, they will all contribute to the $100 million that we need to save this year. So that means that we can continue to save jobs. If we don't do any of these things, then we have to start to focus on jobs. So there is a link in terms of job security, but I think the Vice-Chancellor and everybody in the university community would want to be really focused on doing as many of those things as we possibly can to make sure that we save jobs. And Brian's been very open about that in the statements and the emails that he sent to the university community.
Hi, Nadine. I have a couple of questions that have come through the inbox. Do you mind if I just ask them anonymously?
Of course, very happy for you to do that.
Okay. The first question is about why we can't opt in for a deferred pay rise. Sorry, it's quite a long question, so I'm just summarising it. And essentially the question is, why isn't the university looking at a deferred pay rise for only some staff, either to opt in or to do it based on a certain academic or professional staff level to not disadvantage junior staff?
Sure. I mean, they're all really good questions as well. And you can see from the table that we popped up before in terms of that slide pack that what we've tried to do in terms of the pay increases that have been actioned under this lifetime of this enterprise agreement is to pay a combination of percentage increases plus flat rate increases. And flat rate increases are much more well received by staff on some of the lower classification levels than those on higher paid classification levels, because it's more meaningful in terms of the proportion of income. So we've worked through all of the options in terms of how we might best do this for savings and how we keep the vote as simple as possible. So the best and the easiest way is to just shift the 2% for 12 months. And if we had an opt-in arrangement, that would be incredibly difficult to manage in terms of the arrangements across campus in managing the ability to measure who wanted in and who wanted out. It also means that the savings are very unpredictable. So what we've done is that we've set up a number of funds to support staff across the university. So we've currently got an ANU staff giving fund, which is to support staff members who are experiencing financial difficulty because of COVID-19. Now, we've committed to assisting at least 100 staff with up to $2,500 each. So what we want to do is bring these things together to support our university community. So rather than having an opt-in system or a variable system or having it cut off at a particular classification level, what we've done is set these two processes up. So one is that everybody would have their 2% pay increase deferred, but we've got a support system in place to help people who might need that. And that also allows people to access that giving scheme if they're experiencing financial hardship, irrespective of their current salary rate. We are aware that people's personal circumstances vary. You might have a spouse who's a high income earner but be on a relatively low classification level at ANU, so your household income is quite reasonable. High income earners might be supporting very large families and or extended families, so supporting parents or having caring arrangements. So we're trying to do this in a way which is not judging what people's personal circumstances are, applying the deferral of the pay increase to all staff equally, but then setting up schemes to allow people who might have financial hardship because their spouse might have lost a job, for instance, or because they've got extra expenses associated with COVID-19, access to funds for support. We've never run an ANU giving scheme before for staff members, so it's been a bit of a pilot and it's been a test for us, but it's been overwhelmingly really quite well supported across the community, both in terms of staff who've given to the fund, but also staff who've been recipients of the fund. And it's applied across the board in terms of casuals right through to people who've experienced great financial difficulty during this time. So I think the combination of the schemes that we have to support this are actually as beneficial as we can possibly get.
Thanks, Nadine. If anyone wants to jump on and raise their hand, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I've got a couple of other questions that have come through.
Thanks, Lou.
I might just jump in because no one's raised their hand yet. At other universities like UNSW, top academic and top management staff have agreed to take substantial salary reductions of 10 to 20% for the second half of 2020. Yeah. Why are we not looking to expand that more broadly than just members of our deans and executive team?
We certainly are looking at that. So all of our executive and our deans have agreed to take a 10% salary cut for the second half of this year from July through to the end of December. The Vice-Chancellor is taking a 20% pay cut. ANU doesn't offer any of those members any bonus arrangements, so there are no bonuses to remove. We are starting to look at how we might imagine that or position that across a broader group of people. Now, we can't obviously do that for people who are covered by the ANU Enterprise Agreement. So we will be working with a cohort of people who are off the Enterprise Agreement on individual contracts. So these are the next level down from the executive. And we've already got discussions underway with several people who wish to do that. So where possible, we will be doing that. But it's by mutual agreement with those staff members, because again, it's something that we have to negotiate with them as part of their contracts, and that's underway. Some people have very generously written to the Vice-Chancellor, myself and others, and offered to take salary cuts already, and we're exploring options for them to do that, either through taking a cut or doing it through a philanthropic mechanism so that they can donate back to the university to support other pieces of work. Lou, were there any other questions that you might like to ask?
I do. I've got a couple coming in from people anonymously. Another question that's just come through is, can you please explain why all capital projects currently scheduled cannot be terminated or suspended to save considerable funds? And I know this isn't enterprise related, so I'm sorry, Nadine.
Sure. I'm not sure that I can answer that question, but I'm happy to take it on notice and talk to our Director of Facilities and Services to understand why that is. I'm not across the detail of that, so I'm sorry I can't answer that one for you today.
The next question that has come through is, you said on your slide that it would be 51% of staff are needed to see a majority vote. How many staff do you actually need to vote? How many staff do we have at ANU who will be eligible?
The eligibility of staff is about those people who are currently paid by ANU. So we need to look at our continuing staff, our fixed term staff and casuals who are paid in and around the vote. So it's about being paid at that point in time. So I don't have the exact number with me right now, but I can imagine it's close to the 4,500 people that we have within the university community.
Thanks, Nadine. Sorry, I'll keep reading out questions that are coming through. The next question is about how do I actually vote? So you said it's an electronic vote, but is that going to be emailed to staff, or do I have to go and find a website? What do I have to do?
So many of you will have voted recently in the election for the staff representatives on council. So you'll be sent an email which will come out from me, and there'll be a link in that where you need to link through to the website, and there will be a poll there where you can vote. Now, clearly it needs to be done in a way where you can only vote once, because it's not a situation of vote many times. So it's monitored in that way. And as I said, it is confidential. Your vote details are not going to be released to anyone. This is a vote that we ran in 2017 online and in previous years for each enterprise agreement, because each agreement needs to have a majority vote in order for it to be registered with the Fair Work Commission for approval. So this is it's an online polling tool. It's for those of you who are familiar with what we use an Apollo tool to vote, and it's a yes or a no vote, so it's very easy.
John, I'm just going to unmute you. So John Debs.
Hi, John.
Hi there. Thanks for doing this, Nadine, and all involved. Can I just clarify with the 51% number? Is the vote compulsory, and is 51% required of all eligible voters, or is it 51% of those who do vote? It's
51% of those who do vote, so it's not mandatory to vote, but we do encourage people to vote so that we know what your opinion on this matter is, because that's really important for us to know.
Sure, thank you.
I have another question that's come through. What guarantees will staff be given if this enterprise agreement change is approved? So I'm just continuing to read. Will any other variations occur? Is this basically the start of a number of proposed changes?
Yeah. We'd like to think not. As I said before, the savings that we need to find this year is in the vicinity of $100 million. So the more things that we can do which are related to minimising capital expenditure, reducing the cost of travel, and potentially this option add up to what that $100 million will be. We have committed outside of this to negotiating with the NTU around how we might put together a package of items if that's necessary, but also in opening up the discussion to our community. And so you'll see that Brian has a number of updates and scheduled information sessions and town halls around the financial health of the university, and he is just really keen to hear from you around some of the things that you might like to do to help save money. And we've had some extraordinary options that have been raised around energy savings and the like, and the use of buildings on campus. So these are all amazing suggestions. Keep them coming in, and the more things that we can do like that all help. So I've been working from home since the end of March, as most of you have. I haven't used any paper since the end of March because I'm not printing. And the other day we did a quick back of the envelope kind of assessment of what that means within our division, because we haven't used paper for the better part of 3 months. So they're all contributing actions that we can, as members of the community, can take, and that we can reduce our expenditure, which will contribute to that savings across the board.
Sorry, Nadine. The next question that has come through was about an email sent out about academic promotions. The VC has indicated that academic promotions will be proceeding this year. Considering that all staff are being asked about their preference to defer their pay rise, how can the university justify proceeding with academic promotions, considering this will be an extra cost for schools that are already looking to save money?
Yep, it's a really good question, and we did actually raise that and had a really robust discussion at the executive about it. So we thought that it might be something that we could do, and I've mentioned this before in terms of kind of approaching it like the Olympics. Should we defer it for a year? And we looked at a whole bunch of variables around potentially deferring or not running this year. And we made a decision to go ahead because to not go ahead would detrimentally impact on a very small group of people, because there aren't a huge number of people promoted each year. It is a merit-based process that needs to be gone through, and the pay rise that results from academic promotions doesn't actually flow through until the following calendar year. So we made a decision to go ahead with this, and I think it's an important decision because what it's doing is still saying that the academic mission of this university is incredibly important, and the research and the teaching that we do is incredibly important, and recognising the research and teaching that we do that is of such a high standard and quality is really important. So I think it was the right decision to go ahead with that.
My next question has just come into the inbox, and it is, can you please clarify which staff under the enterprise agreement are eligible to vote, and what type of staff would not be eligible to vote, i.e. not under the enterprise? Does this include contract staff? You mentioned this just before, and I'm just wanting to know a bit more. Thank you.
So we do have some people who are independent contractors, and they might be people who come in and work on IT projects, for instance. They're actually not employees of the university, so they're not eligible to vote. I mentioned before that the executive and many of the senior management group and the university leadership group are covered by individual contracts. They're not eligible to vote because their terms and conditions are of the ANU enterprise agreement. If you're a casual staff member and you haven't worked this semester, then you're not eligible to vote. So it's a small group of people who either haven't been paid in and around the vote, or who aren't covered by the enterprise agreement who aren't eligible to vote.
Thanks, Nadine. Just to follow up on that, does this mean sessional casuals that are not being paid on 17 June will be eligible to vote?
Okay, it's not as at that date. So you need to be paid at least in the pay period beforehand or in the pay period of the vote. Now, most of our casual sessionals that are employed across the semester will be eligible to vote because they will actually be still employed and paid during that pay period. So CSAs should be able to vote.
Thank you. The next question that's coming is, what happens if the majority of staff vote no to the pay rise deferral? What are some of our other options?
Well, we're exploring all options, as I said, and the VC is very interested in hearing what your, top options are for saving money across the university campus. So please keep sending those in. We've had hundreds of those come in already, so we're interested in seeing more of those or raise them at the next forum. And Lou, I think you've probably got the dates of the next forum for the VC's updates. If we don't do this, then we need to look at what other saving mechanisms are. Now, there's only so much you can do in terms of procurement issues. There's only so much that we can do in terms of travel. So ultimately, if we can't reach the savings, then we will need to look at job cuts. But that is the absolute last resort here.
The next question that's come in is just about if you're going to be on annual leave or on long service leave or on personal leave when the vote is happening. Yep. Does that mean that you can't vote, or does that mean that we have to do a recount?
No. If you're on leave at the time of the vote, we have kept the vote open for a week. We didn't just run it for a day. I mean, under the legislative requirements, we can run the vote in a day, but we didn't want to do that because we are aware that people have commitments. So we've kept the vote open for a week. We do want you to vote. You can vote from your phone or from home. It's perfectly okay to do that. So you know when the vote period is. We've already advertised that, and you will be able to link through on that email to do that. So you can vote if you're on leave, but I would encourage you while you're on leave not to do any other work, because taking a break is really important.
Thanks, Nadine. Rachel, I'm just going to unmute your microphone, and then you'll just need to press unmute, please.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Nadine. So I'm just wondering if you're going to add some of these questions to the FAQ or the
Yeah, of course,
information page.
absolutely.
Yeah, because,
Yep.
for example, I didn't see any information. You've stated quite clearly that you're looking at enterprise bargaining next year and that this is just, in inverted commas, a deferral. But that kind of wasn't communicated in the FAQs.
Okay. Of course, very happy to. Rachel, you were involved in bargaining last time, so you know when our agreement comes up to conclusion. So,
it was on my mind, yes.
Yes.
And can I say I loved Kyla's cat intervening? Yeah.
Kyla's cat is absolutely beautiful.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, Lou, do we have any other hands up?
Rachel, I've got your hand up again, but it may just be that you haven't lowered it. I'm just going to give you a second. Oh, no, it's down. That was the last question that's come through the inbox. I'll just check again and see if anything else has come through.
Thank you.
No, that's the last question that I've received, Nadine.
Thanks very much, Lou. I appreciate all your help this morning. Colleagues, I am aware that you may still have questions and you may not want to ask them, or you may not want to out yourself to Lou. You are very welcome to send your inquiries through confidentially to ea.comments@anu.edu.au. We will do our best to answer those questions, and thank you to Rachel's comments. We will update the FAQs as we go progressively through these sessions to make sure that there is more information available and that we're answering those questions and sharing them across the community more generally. Do really want to hear from you on this because it is such an important decision. So please don't hesitate in asking that question that you think that you might want to know the answer to, but you didn't want to raise your hand today. If no one has any other questions, I'm very happy to conclude the session at the halfway mark, and hopefully we will hear from you about your concerns or your questions, and we will hopefully hear from you in terms of the vote as well. Thank you for coming and joining us this morning.